Let's Go Racing family here. We are back after a little bit of a break we had. Summer that's coming up and we're finishing school, but we are ready to go for the rest of the NASCAR season, and we have loads of content ready for you. In fact, right now, behind us is Charlotte Motor Speedway. We were fortunate enough to be able to attend the race and get to watch it, and we've been doing a lot of stuff in Charlotte this week, so there's a bit of content coming up from that, and we're going to discuss the race, what we think about it, and a little bit more.
And Johan, where have we been this week?
Well, we, of course, went to the race, did a lot of stuff there. That was fun. Then we went to downtown Charlotte. We went to the Hall of Fame, and then today we went to Trackhouse headquarters, and RFK, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing.
We have a couple more race team shops to hit before we leave Charlotte. So, yes, it has been a fantastic week on location here in Charlotte. Let's Go Racing family.
Here we go.
Welcome to the Let's Go Racing Family Podcast, sharing our love for NASCAR, running, and just racing through life.
Hosted by Sebastian, Giovanni, Karen, Tony, and me, Johan.
Each week, we'll talk about our view of the world through the lens of racing.
Let's Go Racing family here on site at Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina. It is the evening after the race.
Evening?
It's not an evening.
How long did you, what time did you wake up? It's during the day.
No, during the day.
The day after.
Midday after the race. It was pretty eventful. We got to go and had a really fun experience. We got to go on the track and pits and garages, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Johan, where are we literally sitting? We're literally sitting outside.
We're sitting outside turn 2 of the Charlotte Motor Speedway,
which is right back here. And then that is the super stretch or the back stretch. And you can kind of see in some of these shots the stands, the grandstands, and all the suites and all that behind us. So we thought, what better place to do our podcast than literally sitting just outside the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Now, to get to the race, this was, according to NASCAR, the longest NASCAR race ever by length.
619 miles.
And no other NASCAR race has ran that long. So we got to witness the longest race.
That is pretty cool that we were able to do that.
And what was your overall impression, Sebastian, about experiencing a long race? And let's be honest, we're race fans. We love NASCAR. But from time to time, as Johan would say, what do you call a boring race?
Snooze fest.
This definitely was not a snooze fest, right, Sebastian?
From start to finish, it was
a lot of great action, spread throughout, especially towards that end. And even though there were 4 stages, 100 laps per stage, it didn't feel like I was going to doze off and fall asleep.
No.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with that, the change in the drivers. And again, I think that has to do a lot with this new gen car.
Yeah.
Where we're seeing a lot of competitiveness, a lot more people driving up at the front. You've got lead changes. I was just sharing with you that on the television broadcast, they basically gave the leaders per mile. So lap 100 and lap 200 were led by Chase Elliott. Lap 300 was led by Daniel Suarez. Lap 400 and 500 were led by Ross Chastain. And lap 600 was led by,
I think you did
Kyle Larson.
miles.
No, Kyle Larson had the race ended when it was supposed to.
Yeah, not lap. I meant at mile.
Yeah, mile 600.
At mile 600. So, there was change. There was competitiveness. And really quick, the reason I said that the TV broadcast was because, unfortunately, yesterday, I was not able to make the race in person. I was just not feeling well, and I couldn't make it. So, I'm super bummed that I didn't get to come here in person, but it was just as exciting to watch it on TV. I laid in bed and watched the race from pre-show till the moment it ended. And it was nonstop excitement.
And it was a little bittersweet for you because not only did you get to watch it on TV? Obviously, and we're very grateful that you were fine with us going while we were up there. But you could also hear it and see it outside the window of the hotel. So we'll have a clip I'm going to show.
That was definitely really cool.
Where you can see that.
At one point, I got up and I went to go look out. I said I want to see the view from the bedroom, and you could see the track, and I could hear the cars.
Yeah.
And then at nighttime, it was even louder. So yes, we're going to show you some clips of that because I thought that was just so cool.
I have 2 words to describe this race: Daytona and Talladega.
It did feel like a super speedway, the way that these drivers were like moving up and down, passing each other. And I think the 2 drivers that I think we all like really excited for are the ones that Dad and Mom are wearing.
And Gio. Gio's rocking a Daniel Suarez shirt too.
Yeah, Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain. That Trackhouse team.
Oh my word! They cooked up some really good cars. Not just Trackhouse too, but like 2311 also had some pretty powerful cars.
Unfortunately, got caught up the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, but still, like, these teams had such incredible cars, and huge props to Daniel Suarez. The entire race was consistently running back up there and getting to the front. Like, I remember there was a point where he had like a 50 car length. They said 50 car length gap. It was like a 1.5 second gap between him and the person in front of him, and
Ross
he
Chastain.
closed that in.
Or
yeah,
you
him
mean-
and Ross Chastain. Or
Where he
it was
chased
someone.
down Ross Chastain and then he passed him.
Yeah, but he did it like so quick. Like
Oh, yeah.
usually it would take drivers like 10, 20, maybe even 30, 40, 50 laps to catch up. He did it in a minimum of 5.
Yeah, there were a few times where I'm watching the race and then I blink or like turn away to talk to my like brothers and dad, and then all of a sudden Daniel Suarez has like moved up a few positions. And
Yeah, there was a
I was just looking and you were like way far away.
There was this one restart in stage 3 where Suarez was like, I think in around 20th, 25th. And I was like, uh-oh, Suarez is deep. And that's the point. He just blasted to the top 10. And then he just chased down Ross Chastain and took the lead. That was a fast Daniel Suarez car.
Yeah, and what makes Daniel Suarez's story even better is that his pit stops team had problems like throughout the race, and it
They were
caused him to like
consistently
fall
messing
back,
up.
and yet he still kept
Yeah.
going up.
Yeah, that was for me, when I started to believe this could actually be the day where Daniel Suarez knocks that door down and finally gets that win that he deserves in that team, was the fact that they did keep falling back after the pits, and he would drive back up and drive through. And it wasn't a matter of, certain cars were taken out. He was doing this throughout the entire race, and once he was able to get up there and get some clean air, he was even stronger.
And it wasn't even because of restarts he was gaining. Like midway, halfway through a run, he would keep going. And like you normally don't see that from a lot of drivers.
No, it was, just the way he did it. Again, to me, the biggest, one of the biggest stories, obviously the biggest story is going to be the winner. We'll talk about him and that team in a second. But one of the big stories coming out of this is that, again, Trackhouse Racing has affirmed and basically said, we are a real deal team. Like, we are a championship contending team. And all it takes is Daniel Suarez to get that one win to basically lock himself into the playoffs. And now you're going to have 2 Team Trackhouse cars in the playoffs. So I think that was one of the biggest stories, because this is an endurance race. We talked about it early. I think I was talking to you guys where we were excited because certain drivers were up. Like we saw Ross Chastain, we saw Daniel Suarez, we saw even Kyle Busch was running up front really early. But I said, it's a long race. It's, I think, well over 400 or close to 400 laps, 600 miles. And it starts during the day where the track is hotter. Then the track gets colder. And all of a sudden, the conditions change and the car setups can change. And we've seen that happen where a car that wasn't running up front early, all of a sudden is dominant late, and vice versa. And he was dominant and consistent throughout. The Team Trackhouse, both cars were consistent.
Yeah, and also Suarez, he didn't have only his dominance in the night part, in the day part of the race. He literally went up and passed Kyle Busch, a 2-time champion, and just passed him. And Kyle Busch got loose and spun out, but it's not.
And for clarity's sake, he didn't touch him, right?
It was
Yeah, he didn't touch
Even
him.
though Kyle
did not
Busch
touch
fan-
him at all.
The Kyle Busch fan here will admit Suarez did not touch Busch.
Now, Karen, you said on the broadcast, because we were listening to the broadcast from the stadium, from the track. So we didn't get to hear the interview, but you said Kyle Busch, he wasn't happy when they interviewed, or when he
was talking over the radio. No, he said he pushed him into, or he ran up on him, is what he said, and that was not true. You could see from the broadcast that he didn't even, he might have lost some air as he came close to Suarez's car, but Suarez didn't touch him, and Suarez didn't put him into anything. So that's just Kyle.
Well, again, you may say that's just Kyle, but he still ran well, and he came in factoring late in the race, which is a testament to his ability and his team's ability to get a car that could still stay up front or at least drive near the leaders. Obviously, he took advantage of some things that happened in front of him, but he still was running top 10. You may not have been running top 5 after that.
I mean, that's another thing that it's like he likes to whine and complain, but at the end of the day, and some of the comments that I saw on social media, they're like, yeah, here's Kyle whining and complaining again, but he's going to finish top 5. And sure enough, he did.
I don't necessarily consider it whining.
I do. I consider it whining.
Yeah.
But before we go on to the Joe Gibbs, because I have a whole thing on Joe Gibbs racing right now. Let's finish off, Trackhouse story. It was just so sad and so disappointing, how their night ended. And honestly, I think it was completely unnecessary for their nights to end that way. And let's talk about Daniel Suarez. The one thing that I know when he was interviewed after he came out of the infield care center, he said, I was just tight, and, he drove his car up. But I still say that despite that, I still partially blame Briscoe for it, because he could have let off a little bit. And I think that goes to show a maturity in driving that he lacks compared to other drivers. And, just from watching it from my perspective, I'm like, he could have let off the gas or moved down a bit, which he didn't. And then Mike Joy also said that in laps prior, when that had happened to him, you could see him kind of like backing off from the other cars. And this time he chose not to do it. Also, a similar thing happened later in the race with, I believe it was Joey Logano and Kyle Busch, where Kyle ran up and Joey came down. And you can see the maturity in their driving. Instead of like, oh, let me just hit Kyle Busch in the back, Joey didn't think about doing that. He automatically moved down out of the track, which I think Chase Briscoe should have done.
Look,
again, he hasn't been driving as long.
I fully agree with Mom.
Hold on. You know how I feel about Daniel Suarez, and I was very disappointed. In fact, we were in, and we'll talk about our overall race experience and where we actually watched the race. But at that point in the race, we were actually up in a suite. And there were suites, and the suites are beautiful. They've got like these glass partitions between every suite.
The view is really nice.
The suite we were in, we were kind of, there wasn't a lot of folks that late in the race with where we were, but there was a full suite next to us. And I'm like standing up, pacing back and forth, because that's what I do when we're watching an event like that. And I get nervous and I just start pacing, and I'm watching them go around the track. And when that wreck happened, I was very upset. I started screaming, no, no, no. And I sent your mom a GIF. I said, I'm sure the people next door looked over and heard me yelling, no, 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 like Steve Carell from The Office. And there's a famous meme where he's like, no, no, no. That is what I felt. That is what I was screaming at the time. And I was very upset, and I was upset with Chase Briscoe. And I wasn't happy. Then I saw the interview. Then I saw the replay. And I hear what you're saying. He could have leapt off. You're absolutely right. He could have. Depending on the driver, the maturity, maybe they would. Chase Briscoe has not had an opportunity to win a crown jewel race like this. And what did I say when we were talking about this earlier? He doesn't get paid to lay off the gas that late in a race with a chance to win. And you know what? For him, He still had a shot to win the
You
race.
get paid to use the brake, you're going to use the brake.
No,
He doesn't have to use
Well,
the
he
brake.
doesn't
Just
have
let
to.
off the
Let
gas.
off.
my
He would-
point is,
Let off the gas and move down.
Daniel Suarez himself said he put himself in a bad situation. And he did acknowledge that Briscoe could have let off. And I feel that. But I'm sorry, it's at this point when it's that late in a race and you can see the finish line and you can see the checker
I
flag.
mean, there were still 54 laps
You
to
go
go.
for it. Yeah, but after
So
how
what
many
you're
laps
saying
had
was
already
that
passed?
you're totally okay with
I'm not
what
totally
Briscoe
okay.
did
No,
to
I'm not.
Reddick
I'm just
at
saying,
that one track
I
where
would-
Reddick was about to win, and he just had to spin him out.
No, I don't think I wanted Reddick to win as well, but I'm telling you, it's kind of like this. We talked about this other one. Yes, Austin Dillon put himself and the rest of that field in a very precarious situation. But no, it was called checkers or wreckers.
Where did that go, though?
It's because
It's
usually
because
coming
he
into
had
that turn,
4 tires after
he
that
had, he had tires, and he was like, I'm going to go in hot into the turn.
And if it
And
doesn't
hopefully
stick,
that car is going to stick. And if it doesn't,
And
I don't
in
care.
his interview, he basically said, I did what I had to do.
and are
I
you-
agree.
And I mean, when you're that close to a win, and that's essentially what Briscoe did. I'm not happy about it because obviously we're pulling for Daniel Suarez, and he had the top car. Like, you cannot argue. He had the most dominant car.
I mean, he said it himself.
yesterday.
He said,
He said it
after
himself.
his
You
interview.
saw it the way he drove through. So I'm not happy about that. But I can't necessarily, when everything is set, every emotions are kind of calm. You kind of analyze it. And I will say this, talk about driver maturity. Daniel Suarez has an amazing amount of maturity because he, in the moment, was able to say, you know what? He could have left off, but he didn't. I put myself in a bad situation. And another thing that I thought was really cool about Daniel Suarez, he did not throw his team under the bus. He did say he had pit problems. And we later found out it wasn't necessarily that the team was messing up or dropping a jack or that kind of thing, but it was the situation of where he pitted and the cars
Yeah, it
and
was
all that.
just a genuine
And he said, look, we're going to learn from it. And he's like picking up his team. Even though they're losing spots that he had to drive and get back. That shows a lot of maturity. And that's why I do think Daniel Suarez is the real deal. And it's just a matter of time before Trackhouse Racing has another winner in their stable. So yeah, let's finish up talking about this race because again, 619 miles. It's crazy to think we sat through a 619-mile race and we were ready for more. If there would have been another overtime, we would have been like, oh my goodness, but we would have been ready for it. We were excited. I mean, it was close to midnight, like Mom said, and we were ready to go. So again, exciting. So we talked about Trackhouse. Great overall. Unfortunately, you don't have the results to show it, but what a performance that they put on. The Hendrick cars, they were a little hit or miss. You had 2 of the cars that literally were driving out. We saw the trailers. Remember, Johan? You saw it.
William Byron and Chase Elliott. What happened to Alex
Yeah, they had to
Bowman?
go to the garage.
At one point, he was up, but I think he got caught up in some of the stuff, and he
Got
ended
caught
up
up in
filling.
Austin Dillon's records or checkers, whatever that was.
Wreckers or checkers? I'm telling you. Who said that he's got a Showtime show?
He's got a show starting June 23rd
And what's it called?
on
Austin
on
Dillon,
USA.
Life in the Fast Lane with
I'm
Austin
telling
Dillon.
you, Austin, got to go with Wreckers or checkers, baby. And you know what? I actually, you didn't take out any of the Trackhouse drivers when it happened, so maybe that's why
Yeah,
I'm
he
a little
did.
cool
He
with
Took out
took out Chastain.
Wait, that
Yes.
was the wreck?
He pulled up, took out everybody right behind him. Which
still.
was
It wasn't Dylan.
Chastain.
Larson got into Dylan's.
No, but it was
spine.
because Dylan
But when
did what he did.
Dylan pulled up next to Larson, you could see his car wiggled because he got lost some air, and then as he was trying to pass him, he went whoosh, turned sideways, and basically plowed everybody behind him.
And what did I say? Checkers or
Checkers
Wreckers?
or Wreckers?
So that's what you need to rename your show, Checkers or Wreckers, because I mean that he put it all out there. He put it all out there.
That-
Yeah, you did. You're
that
right.
wreck took out
Remember,
Chastain
he did take
and
out
Joey
Chastain.
Logano.
I was
'Cause
thinking of.
he know
I
he-
remember seeing Joey.
I was thinking of
I
Suarez.
love how stubborn Joey is, but like in a good way. Because mind you, he got caught up in that wreck and his car was like damaged, and he's still sitting on the track, like trying to get it going.
That
and I'm like,
was-
keep doing it.
Same thing with Chastain. I was like, oh man, they're gone. And all of a sudden, and you guys are texting me, oh, Chastain is still in the top
Yeah.
10. And I'm like, with a messed up car, he's not going anywhere.
And he did pull over when they
once they
restarted, and he
restarted.
fell back because he knew he just wasn't going to be able
Well,
to stay up there.
I forget how many cars are left in this field on the field. I think it was like 20
Felt like
cars. So I think
16.
everybody who was left in the race got a top 20. Free top 20s for everybody.
No, it definitely wasn't free top 20s. It was a very expensive night for these owners.
Justine gets a top 20. Everybody gets top 20s.
Let's wrap up this section of the podcast by recapping real quick those last laps. And we had how many overtimes?
2.
3. I thought there were 3.
No, it was 2.
It was only 2?
They won on the second
We're gonna
overtime.
check the tape.
The
but
race
I thought it
finished
was
on
2.
the second overtime.
All right. So it was 2 overtimes that they got through. And so in the first one, do you guys remember what happened?
That was the Austin.
Oh, that
Records
was
or checkers?
Wreckers or checkers. All right. And then
Austin Dillon.
and that's what took out Ross Chastain. That's right. Because then when they went to the other restart,
He was still at the front. With
he
his
was in
messed
the
up
front,
car.
but he couldn't stay up.
But despite all of this, 2 drivers who had not really run the best the entire race were now in the front row. Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin.
Well, hold on. Let's just say this. Those 2 drivers qualified really well. In fact, one of them was
on
on
the
pole
pole.
sitter.
Yeah, but just because you qualify well, which is you running your own lap by yourself on the track,
does
doesn't
not
mean
you're gonna do
that
well.
they
Of
were doing
course
great
not,
throughout
but
the
you
race.
still unloaded with speed is what they said. You unloaded with speed. And Denny Hamlin came here with a fast car. Yes. As the race played out, he wasn't the most dominant car. Got hit a couple of times. I think he obviously didn't have catastrophic damage, but because these cars are so well built, even though he was part of or in the middle of some of the wrecks throughout the race, he didn't actually spin out or anything. Now, Kyle Busch, we talked about, there was a point where he was leading the race early on. And who was it? Daniel Suarez was running second, and he wanted that first place. And he did the Kyle, what I think Kyle would have done to others, kind of ran him up a little bit, didn't touch him, but it put Kyle Busch in a situation where his car wasn't as comfortable, and he spun out on his own. And he actually had the car pointing backwards at one point.
So you can say what you want about the Joe Gibbs cars, and you can think that they were fast cars because they qualified well. I disagree. I think they all ran. I mean, I saw the 20 actually several times up there because he had his purple car that you could, see from pretty much anywhere. But they pretty much ran just average. I didn't think there was nothing impressive about them. I thought they were average. And honestly, they finished top 10 because they benefited from all of the good cars being wrecked out.
Not just top 10.
That's it.
Not just top 10.
Joe Gibbs.
Top 5.
Joe Gibbs, if you're hearing this, I am going to say one good thing is that props to your drivers of them dodging the wrecks and not getting involved.
I have to agree with the little man here. I mean, you can say what you want, and I cannot disagree. We know who had the more dominant cars. It wasn't the ones that finished 1, 2, 3. We know that. Even they know that. They even said it in interviews. But you got to be pretty smart and pretty wily to figure out and keep your car as clean as possible, even in all that mess. Because yes, they weren't the most dominant, but on that money lap, they were where they needed to be. And Jimmy Johnson won a championship that way in Homestead. Other drivers, your drivers have all won races that same way, where they didn't have the most dominant, but they were where they needed to be when it was the money lap.
In the words of Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin backed himself into that win.
And you know what? If I'm Denny Hamlin, I'd probably make a T-shirt just like Alex Bowman did.
All luck, no skill.
It don't matter because he still got the championship ring, one of the missing pieces, trophies for his career, Hall of Fame career. He could end today. He could walk away today. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And even though he hasn't won a championship yet. And I think
Denny Hamlin, he's overly excited for your win because you got him 3 points in our league.
I mean, man can drive. And I like Denny Hamlin. You know my affinity for his airness, Air Jordan, and the fact that Michael Jordan, the greatest athlete in the history of sports, teamed up with Denny Hamlin. That says something to me. All right, so that wraps up what to us was an awesome race experience. and something to watch at home. Karen can confirm for us, because she had to watch it on TV, that it was a good watch on TV. And obviously the four of us had an awesome time being at the track, in the suites, and down in the grandstands. So it was truly an awesome race.
Back with a charge, compliments of Kyle.
All right. As Tony mentioned earlier, we obviously are on location, and they got to experience being inside the track yesterday because, like I said, I unfortunately was not able to make it. So why don't you guys share with us, like, what you guys got to experience firsthand inside the track?
Well, it was quite interesting, especially for the first time we've attended a Charlotte race. It was a new facility, really cool though. Overall, it was really cool, nice. Like when we got into the pits and garages, we actually saw a lot of the crew members. Like there were a lot of them, and the haulers, and we had a couple of interactions and saw.
I think when we first got into the garages, which was kind of cool, we ended up walking right past where all the crew members got their food.
Yeah.
And so everyone was kind of lined up there. And then we were kind of milling around the garage area, seeing if we saw any drivers. So did we see anybody that our podcast listeners might recognize?
We saw Alex Bowman.
Yeah. And what was cool about that?
Because you said...
Well, first off, he was just kind of walking through, and people, of course, were stopping him, taking pictures and whatnot. And you look up, oh my goodness, there's Alex Bowman. And then you went and you said his name. You said Alex, right? With all these people. And the man stops and he looks, and he, like, a lot of these drivers, you will find that sometimes they have to kind of just go and sometimes not ignore the fans, but just stay focused so they can get to where they need to go. But not Alex. He was like stopping he knew he was trying to get to his hauler, but he kept stopping. And you said, Alex, he turns around. He's like, hey, and stuff. And then I said, what'd I say?
Dad said that I was from Media Days, if you don't remember. And he actually did remember.
Yeah,
so
he
I'm
did.
Very surprised.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
We didn't get to spend too much time with him because, like I said, he was kind of walking away. I barely got a little bit of the video, but it's at the very end. I didn't even get the interaction because I had my phone not recording at the time, and I'm like trying to fumble to get it. But he already had to kind of walk away. But you kind of see that he's stopping as he's going and continuing. But yeah, he did remember you from Media Day.
We also saw Ross Chastain.
Now, we didn't actually get to stop him, right? Because
he had
a camera crew behind him, and we didn't want to get involved with any of that.
Yeah,
but
we didn't want to mess that up.
Pretty cool. We got to see Ross Chastain. And speaking of Trackhouse, we also, at least I briefly saw.
I saw.
Daniel.
I saw.
So we briefly saw
I didn't
Daniel
see him.
Suarez. He was in between his and Chastain's hauler. You could see he was getting interviewed and talked to, but it was pretty cool. We got to see him, little glimpse of him.
And we also stopped right in front of the haulers, took pictures. They had a number 1, and then they had a 99 kind of little statue thing. So we took pictures there, and that's where you guys had seen Daniel Suarez.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also at Ross Chastain's hauler was a truck driver. Some people may not be able, not know him, but I do. Carson Husavar. He actually signed my lanyard. It was really cool. The reason he was he was at Ross's truck is because he actually drives for the team that Ross drove for in the truck series. And it was actually, I think him and Ross are friends. Like, he even congratulated Ross on his truck win on Friday night.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know who he was, so forgive me. But Johan did, and he called over, and he was kind enough to stop and autograph his lanyard there. And then we took, and then he asked Johan, do you want a picture? And of course. So we took a picture with him too. So that was awfully nice of him. So yeah, remember that and appreciate him stopping. There was somebody else we saw as we were kind of walking through the garage. Who was that? Media. Remember? Think Media.
Yeah.
Regan Smith.
Bob.
Regan Smith was one. But
Bob Procris.
Yes, Bob. Bob, to me, is a media kind of legend. He's kind of, he is, to me, when I think of NASCAR media, I think of Bob, I think of Jamie Little, who apparently walked right by me. I didn't even see.
Yeah, so these three were doing something, taking a picture. I think it was at the Kyle Busch hauler. And I see Jamie Little walk by, and I was like, oh, hi, Miss Little. And she said hi and then walked on by. But yeah, I got to see Jamie Little. So that was a few of the members, and they didn't even
And we didn't see it. But Bob Pockruss, we had walked around the corner, and we saw him. We stopped him and even gave him a little Let's Go Racing family sticker with our QR code. So maybe Bob will hear the podcast. Maybe not. If you do, Bob, thank you for stopping for just a moment. I know you're busy, man, and especially in that time where you're moving from, team to team, getting your stories, letting the NASCAR fans that aren't at the track know what's going on. And you took a moment to stop, take a picture with the boys. And also, I thought was really cool about Bob, he didn't just say, hey. He literally shook each one of your hands and was like, very nice. What was your name? And he like looked in your eyes, and it wasn't just like a random thing like, okay, I got to go. Boom. So I thought that was super cool, Bob. Thank you for that. I've always been a fan of yours. I know the boys have, sometimes they don't even realize some of the news that they're hearing, some of the interviews. You're the one that does it and brings it to us NASCAR fans that watch and follow the sport regularly. So again, thank you, Bob.
Pretty cool
for taking time. Yeah, it was really, really cool. So then so we're walking around, but it's getting close, right, to the start of the race. So we didn't see too many more drivers because we figured they were all doing team meetings, like you guys said. Daniel Suarez was in a team meeting. We were gonna wave them down and say, "Hey, you remember Johan from Media Day?" But we didn't get a chance to do that, and we weren't going to because they were an official meeting. But we walked around. We actually went into some of the garage area where they had all of the tools and the toolboxes and things for each of the team. Took some pictures. And
You actually saw the hauler where the drivers get called.
Yes.
Official NASCAR
When they're doing bad
hauler.
stuff and they get parked.
The timeout hauler.
The
And when you
principal's
hear-
office.
Yes, and actually we talked to a NASCAR official, literally wasn't official, and we asked him about it. That's exactly how he described it. Wasn't it, Sebastian?
Yeah, that's literally how he said it, word for word.
Yeah. So then what else did we do? So we milled around the garage area, went by, I think, Johan, you collected several hero cards
Yep.
from several teams.
Quite a
And then what did we do? We went down pit road.
Yeah, we went down pit road and we were so close to the cars and where they had the the pit stands with the tires, and you mentioned earlier, Gio was able to pick one of the tires up thanks to a member of the colleague racing team.
And also on pit road, you guys got to take pictures in front of each of your cars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was a little paranoid. I said, don't go past this line because God forbid someone walk by, you run, and I didn't want you leaning or touching those cars. Plus, there's officials, NASCAR officials everywhere. So, but
there
we
were three
able
of them
to-
standing by Joey's car.
Yeah,
I
by
didn't want to
Joey's car.
accidentally fall on that car, and then these three guys
So
tackle me.
You'll see in our pictures, we're a little further away. but
Hey, he fell on Joey's car. Get him.
you don't want to be that fan. It ruins it for everybody. So we were very respectful.
That makes
of all
Joey
the
have to go to the
cars.
backup car.
Yeah, no, we're not going to be part of that. So, but it was cool to be that close to all the cars. And then, so we walked down, saw some more, took some pictures. And then what did we do? We went back into the infield where they're getting ready to do the starting lineup. And then we decided we were going to watch that from up in the suite.
I was about to
Yeah.
ask. Tell us about Sweet Life.
It was.
Really nice.
It was
Beautiful.
beautiful.
It's an
amazing.
It's an entirely different experience from watching it in the stands.
I
And
made
you
a
know-
friend in the suite. He was a Hendrick guy too. He was rooting for Chase Elliott too.
Let me just say something about these suites we were in. They were really, really nice, but also you still had that experience of sitting out there and watching the race because
Yeah.
they weren't so high that it's almost like, oh, they're like super tiny cars going by. It was visible. You could see the race, still hear the roar of the cars, and it still felt like you were having
Although,
a NASCAR experience.
I will say those sorry, there are some cars driving by, they're a little loud, so hopefully you heard what we're saying. But the thing about those suites, they were pretty soundproof. You still heard and even felt some of the vibrations. You could even see, depending on what it was, the windows vibrate a little bit, but they were pretty good. They did pump in the sound from the broadcast, and it was air conditioned. It was awesome. And like you said, I loved the proximity to the track. Beautiful floor to ceiling glass windows. So you're seeing it all. Great angles. We were like right there off of turn 4, so we saw the cars coming off of turn 4 and going around.
You
could
see them go around basically the entire track.
It was
So you didn't lose that experience from
Absolutely,
sitting
no.
in the actual stands.
No, it was awesome. It was again, it's like Sebastian said, it's a different way to experience a race. Definitely, I mean, super cool because like you don't have to wait in a line to go to the bathroom. You don't have to wait in line to get food. There's food and drink there. It's air conditioned. I will tell you, it was awesome.
The food and sodas free.
Yeah, that's his favorite part.
It's like if Dobby went to a suite. Dobby is free.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. No, it was an awesome experience. So we want to say thank you, NASCAR, for getting us that hookup for the race, for this particular race, and also for the close access that we had. Right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It was incredible.
Thank you, NASCAR.
So thank you again
Thank you,
to NASCAR.
thank you.
It was super cool and really a memorable experience. And so, yeah, I mean, what a way to watch the race. We did actually have tickets for the grandstand. So, of course, I was like, let's go check those out. I wanted to see how close those were, and they were great. We actually were closer to the start-finish line. So you saw, the cars as they came down the stretch from turn 4, and then you turn to the right, and there was the start-finish line right down from our area, which were also really good seats. I think we were row 39 in the GM section. So not too high, not too low. I honestly, it was great. And the thing that I think is kind of unique about this track is the space in between the rows. They had like some of them, where we were, they had like almost like tabletops. So you get food and drink, and you're not like literally on top of someone in front of you, where sometimes you feel that. In
It was really good
other races.
spacing.
So so it was pretty comfortable there.
Even for a sold-out race.
Experience.
But not gonna lie, that Sweet Life was really nice. So
No,
we only
the
watched
Sweet
one
Life was-
stage down
Dad,
there.
The sweet life wasn't nice. It was sweet.
It was sweet. And so what did we do? We went back up to finish. So I think we watched 3 out of the 4 stages from the suite. And then we watched the one
Stage 3
down
it
down in
was
there. So
Very cool.
yeah, no, it was awesome. And again, super grateful for the access and for the opportunity to have a once in a lifetime type experience for our family, to be able to walk down into the pit areas, to walk through the garages, walk on the infield, and then to watch the race from the pit, from the suites. It was totally awesome. So I asked this morning, I said, guys, what do you think? Memorial Day weekend tradition. So we'll have to check that out. Even Karen, although she wasn't there, could hear and feel the race, like you said earlier, because of the proximity. We stayed at a hotel, literally could walk to the track.
The hotel was like over there.
Yeah, you could see the track
Just
from
behind
our
the
room,
track.
which was awesome. Or you could see the facility, not the actual track, but you could see the facility.
And you could
from
see
there.
the hotel from the track too.
Yeah. So it was really awesome. All right, any last words about our awesome Coca Cola 600 experience?
Much
One
else?
thing is, apparently I heard that if you win the 600, I think you get a Coke machine.
That was new to me. Danny Hamlin educated us on that. Who's actually getting that Coke machine in his family? His daughter had promised him. She was basically like, "Daddy, go get me that machine," and or the Coke thing, and he did. And so I think that's kind of cool.
That's a good father.
Yeah, we love Coca-Cola, so. But anyway, I thought that was kind of a cool thing. Much better than a clock, as Mom says. Her least favorite, trophy is the clock, even though it's pretty prestigious. She's just not a fan. I mean, would you do? Not that it was the trophy, but I mean, you'd probably feel better with a Coke machine.
I'll take a Coke machine
Okay,
over a grandfather
Coke
clock.
machine.
How
all right.
dare you? Well, I probably would take the Coke machine, but the grandfather clocks are nice.
Again, one other thing that we did do pre-race was we got to go into Victory Lane, take some pictures there. That later that night, Danny Hamlin himself was there with his car. So that was also a very cool thing to be able to do. And I mean, just imagine going to a Super Bowl and being on the stage before the team that wins and taking pictures. And then later that night, you see them there celebrating. You're like, I was there. NASCAR, to me, of all sports, is got to be one of the best, if not the best, at fan accessibility and being able to connect with the drivers and the teams. It's just such an important part of this sport. I'm just so grateful to see how NASCAR is just so accessible to us fans and just makes it like you're that much closer. Like you literally can touch the tires or the car or take pictures right before they're actually going to be out there. So that's pretty cool. So, all right. Any last words, guys, for this week's episode?
So we are sticking around for a few more days here in Charlotte. We are going to check out the Hall of Fame. We were here several years ago, and Johan was pretty small, so he didn't get to experience certain things like the pit challenge.
One thing I do remember is that on the simulator, I ended up doing it with Sebastian. I remember just smashing in the wall a lot.
Another thing that we're going to do is go check out some of the race team headquarters, which we also got to do before, but it'll be cool to go and see these because I realized on our drive up that the last time we went to Hendricks, none of the drivers that are currently on their team were actually driving for them. So, yeah. So that'll be...
Actually...
Oh, I think Chase Elliott was, right?
Chase
Elliott, Alex Bowman, and William Byron.
So 3 out of the 4.
No, they weren't all there.
No, because Jimmy Johnson was still there.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson was still there.
So no Alex Bowman.
And then
Jeff
Bowman drove the 88 before he drove the 48. Basically, here's the Hendrick thing. So basically, 2020, the team was the 88 of Alex Bowman, 24 of William Byron, the 9 of Chase Elliott, 48 of Jimmy Johnson. And
Wait,
2020,
you just said 2020.
They take out the 88 and put
but
in
we
the 5.
came, Mom. What Mom's saying is we
years
came
ago.
earlier than that. It was like
2016.
2018.
It was like
2019.
2019?
Yes,
Yeah.
2019. We
Three
were.
Point is,
3 out of the 4.
it wasn't the same team. So we get to see basically all the teams now with the right drivers: Bowman, Elliott, Larson. Larson was definitely not on that team.
Well, so basically
And
there's
Chase,
some new
yeah.
drivers that have been added to most teams.
So we're excited to go check out the team facilities, the NASCAR Hall of Fame tomorrow, and then we'll make our trip back home. So yeah, this was it's a little bit of a longer episode, but we're on location. We had an awesome experience. We wanted you all to see what we saw and what we felt and experienced. So, all right, I think that's it for this week. Giovanni, why don't you take us out?
That's going to wrap up this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening on in. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing, following all of our socials, and checking out the rest of our episodes. Anyway, Let's Go Racing Family, out.